Module 3. Social distancing rules. The rules and how you should be doing this at your venue. So, what is social distancing? It means maintaining a distance of 1.5 metres from others. This includes patrons and other staff. The likelihood of interactions causing the spread of COVID-19 is low if physical distancing advice and good hygiene are followed, as the virus is unlikely to be spread if face-to-face interactions are limited to less than 15 minutes and close proximity interactions are limited to below 2 hours. Remember, workers must maintain their distance from each other as far as is reasonably practicable. Patrons need to be 1.5 metres away from each other when lining up, sitting down, and in gaming rooms, etc. Currently, we have number limits imposed on us. We must all follow the 1 person per 4 metre square rule. In Queensland, smaller spaces under 200 metres square can have 1 person per 2 metres square. In SA and WA, a 1 person per 2 metre square rule applies to all venues. Social distancing. This will arguably be the most difficult requirement to enforce. Initially, we must work diligently to ensure that social distancing measures are effectively enacted. You do not want to be the venue in the centre of an outbreak cluster. There are several levels of social distancing requirements. These include general workplace provisions, worker requirements, patron requirements, delivery and service agent requirements, and contractor requirements. The following procedures should be put in place to ensure social distancing measures can be discharged effectively. General workplace provisions. Demarcation and safe distancing should be undertaken on floor surfaces of places like reception, point of sale areas, and bar areas. Tap and go payments should be promoted. Entry and exit points to be separated and be marked where appropriate. Cash handling will require staff to don gloves and discard these after handling cash. A set number of patrons will be enforced within the venue. This will be signposted at the front door and should also be signposted in visible locations at the entrance of each area of the venue. Areas must be set up to ensure that social distancing requirements can be achieved. In Queensland and New South Wales, table service should be considered to minimise the flow of patrons around the venue. Remember, there is a 1 person per 4 metres square rule in Queensland and New South Wales, and a 1 person per 2 metre square rule in South Australia and West Australia, and this applies to all workplaces. In New South Wales, a maximum number of 300 people in a larger venue is allowed, provided social distancing can be achieved. In South Australia, a maximum amount of 1,000 in larger venues is allowable, provided you have this signed off by SA Health. As staff, you should stop shaking hands to greet others. Essential meetings should be held ensuring social distancing measures can be maintained. This will include spacing tables and chairs accordingly. All staff are to adhere to good hand hygiene protocols and sneeze and cough etiquette. All staff must use supplied PPE as required, in line with training programs in place. Staff must be provided adequate access to hand sanitizer and hand wash stations. Breaks should be staggered to ensure staff rooms and other common areas do not become crowded and social distancing measures can be maintained. Staff must regularly clean and sanitise surfaces that many people touch. This in line with any developed cleaning schedule. The sharing of food must be prohibited until further notice. All food handlers will adhere to strict hygiene practices to protect food from contamination. And you should also insist in enforcing social distancing measures across the venue. For patrons, contact tracing requirements should not be dismissed. All patrons shall be required to sign in. This using any installed digital sign-in terminal, using a paper-based form. Remember, records must be transferred to a digital format within 24 hours, but at any rate, must be available in a digital form to an authorised person within 1 hour of that request being made in Queensland and New South Wales. A QR code sign-in type is advisable for all venues. In New South Wales, the COVID Marshal must ensure that all sign-in records are legible. All patrons must sign out so numbers can be tracked. They must keep 1.5 metres away from others at all times. They will not attend a venue if unwell, and they will avoid physical greetings such as handshakes, hugs and kisses, etc. And they will use, as required, any provided hand sanitisation stations placed around the venue. New South Wales Venue Rules. Currently, a maximum of 10 people per booking or per table is allowable. A maximum of 10 people on a group entering or being on the premises. Alcohol can only be consumed by seated customers. A maximum of 300 people in the venue at any one time, or one customer per 4 square metres, whichever is lesser. For venues that consist of separate areas, the maximum capacity is 300 people in the separate area at any one time, or again, one customer per 4 square metres, whichever is lesser. To be a separated area, the area must be separate from other areas on the premises. If food and drink services are being provided in the area, have staff that are providing food and drink service only in that area, and not allow persons gathering in different separate areas of the venue to mingle. Queensland Venue Rules. From Stage 3, the maximum number of patrons for a business at any one time will be determined by the 4 metres square rule, with defined areas no longer required. For smaller venues below 200 square metres, businesses can have 1 person per 2 square metres, up to 50 persons at a time. For any dining-in service with an applicable COVID-safe industry plan that allows for more than 50 patrons, you no longer need to divide your venue into designated areas. In Stage 3, you can consume alcohol without food at a table or seated at a bar. Order, pay and collect food and drinks at a bar or service counter, but you must return to your seat. You can only eat and drink while seated. You must ensure you continue to practice physical distancing and stay 1.5 metres away from the next patron whenever possible. Western Australia Venue Rules. Due to a good response to COVID-19 in Western Australia, Phase 4 restrictions started on the 27th of June and has resulted in the following. All existing gathering limits and the 100 and 300 rule have been removed. Gathering limits are only determined by Western Australia's reduced 2 square metre rule. The square metre rule will only include staff at venues that hold more than 500 patrons. This means that if you hold more than 500 patrons, staff are included in that count. The removal of seated service requirements at food businesses and licensed premises has been introduced. There is no longer a requirement to maintain patron registers at food businesses and licensed premises. Alcohol can be served as part of an unseated service arrangement. All events are permitted except for large-scale and multi-stage music festivals. Unseated performances are permitted at venues such as concert halls and live music venues, bars and pubs and nightclubs. For Western Australia, major sport and entertainment venues at 50% capacity rule apply applies. Continue to keep up physical distancing where possible and maintain good personal hygiene. Western Australia businesses will be expected to ensure their COVID safety plans are updated and are continued to be implemented. South Australia Venue Rules. The density requirement of 1 person per 2 square metres applies for defined public activities. The maximum number of attendees at a place of business will be determined by its size. These requirements apply only to patrons, not to staff. Whilst most businesses may now open, some restrictions still apply. There will be no shared utensils in the course of providing the service of any food or beverage. There will be no communal food or beverage service areas. This includes buffets, salad bars, and communal water stations and beverage dispensers. No reusable equipment such as hookah or other pipes, tubes, heads, or any other equipment associated with the operation of shisha, smoking, or vaping at the place may be used. Social distancing for contractors. All contractors should sign in using sign-in processes available at the venue and must sign out when needed. Delivery persons should not enter the building if this can be avoided, but should drop items at the back dock or delivery area and allow staff to gather the stock items for distribution around the venue. If delivery personnel are to come on site, the same rules as contractors should apply. All contractors must ensure that contact is made with management of the venue, RE attendance and approximate time frames, so that max occupancy limits are not exceeded. Contactless invoicing should be enacted whenever possible. All contractors must abide by social distancing rules whilst on site. Contactless delivery to be enacted where appropriate. Contractors and delivery personnel must not attend the venue if unwell. And contractors should have in place a COVID-19 safety plan that will be provided to management of the venue. It is up to all of us to ensure that as far as reasonably practicable, these measures are enforced. There are a couple of ways in which you can do this. Refer patrons to signage around the venue. Remind them that social distancing is required by law and that we don't just make this stuff up. Remember, persons from the same family group don't have to follow social distancing. This is where most of this difficulty lies. But the group must not be in breach of social distancing between people outside of this group. For you, if in doubt, always get a manager. Hygiene protocols are important. Without proper hygiene protocols in place, cleaning, disinfecting and social distancing are destined to fail. Make use of the hygiene facilities at your workplace. Ensure that adequate hand washing facilities are available and are checked regularly. Ensure that hand sanitizer is made available at strategic locations around the venue.